your host, Riley Diefenbach, reporting from the Pioneer News on the Oregon Trail. Many things have influenced our Washington State history today, like railroad systems, immigration, and much more. Some are well known or barely known at all. Elijah White was one of the barely known people. Even though many of you have never heard of him, he still made a great impact on Washington history today. Today I will be telling you a little bit about our friend Elijah White. Elijah White was born in New York in 1805. When he was younger, he wanted to become a doctor, so he was educated at the Medical College in Syracuse, New York. After he graduated, he became a doctor near Salem, Oregon. He had an apprentice named W.H. Wilson, who later became a doctor in Oregon as well. He was a Methodist, so he went to a Methodist church, and while he was there, they appointed him to be a physician in the Willamette Valley Mission. Later that year, he was married. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. He and his family sailed to the Sandwich Islands in July 1836 to prepare for the mission. He also did missionary work for the Native Americans. In May 1837, Elijah and his family continued on to Oregon, but unfortunately, in 1838, his son Jason drowned in a tragic canoe accident with his mother. George also died as an infant. The mission was on the Oregon Trail, and very few people had traveled on it. Elijah was in the second wagon train ever, and the first to include more than 100 settlers. Speaking of the Oregon Trail, traveling by wagon train was not easy. Oftentimes, like right now for example, the wooden wheels would break and the wagon train would have to stop for hours until the wheels were repaired. Well, back to Elijah. During the mission, the party split into two groups, and a Canadian group joined them along the way. Later on, Elijah had disagreements with the leader of the group, Jason Lee, and resigned in 1840.
Wagon tow!
Well, sounds like the wheel is fixed. Back to the wagon train. Each night, the wagon train had to stop and make camp like this one. After he resigned, Elijah and his family moved to California in 1841. There, he established a law code for the Nez Perce Indians. In 1843, Elijah went to a wolf meeting to consider military and civil protections for Willamette Valley settlers. He was also a member of the Committee of 12, who were 12 people named at the second wolf meeting. In 1844, White was involved with the Comstock incident, which was a murder. The murder happened when the provisional government's recorder was killed by a Native American named Comstock. Elijah had known about the murder and had tried to capture Comstock prior to the murder, but failed. After the murder, Elijah worked to resolve tensions between the Native Americans and settlers after Comstock and two settlers were killed. Elijah also conducted a census, which is recording information about the members of an economy or population. This is an official count of a particular population that regularly occurs. In 1845, Elijah and his wife left the region and went with the petition from the provisional government to the U.S. Congress. Later that same year, he also returned to the East to deliver an Oregon Provisional Government memorial to the U.S. Congress. Along the trail, the settlers would often run into fur trappers, who would wear authentic coonskin caps like this one. Elijah was the first medical educator in Oregon County. When Elijah got back from delivering the memorial, he sought to make peace with the Cayuse and Walla Walla Indians, who were threatening to attack missions. In 1845, Elijah found a path through the coastal mountains to the head of Yaquina Bay, near present-day Newport. 5 years later, in 1850, he worked to promote Pacific City near Ilwaco, Washington, along the Columbia River. Elijah's partner was James Duval, and they worked together to sell property to settlers. In 1861, Elijah was commissioned a special Indian agent for the territory west of the Rocky Mountains. A special Indian agent was an individual authorized to interact with Native American tribes on behalf of the U.S. government. When Elijah died on April 3, 1879, he was 74 years old. See you later on the Oregon Trail!